So in AI, there are basically different types of layers and things that we use. So the thing that everyone usually starts out with is like a dense, or usually called like a fully connected layer or network. So in this architecture, you basically have a bunch of nodes, and everything has a connection to each one of the other nodes, right? So this is just like basically a basic fully connected layer. And this is used like basically everywhere in deep learning. And CNNs is basically a different type of layer, a way to do this, which is more intuitive for images, basically, and image processing. So that's basically the idea of what CNNs are good for. And the basic idea is, we have an image. Make it big. This is a big square. Yep, square. And say it's an image of a cat. I'm going to attempt to draw a cat right now. Okay. We got the head. There's our cat. Okay. It's got whiskers. Yep. There's our cat. Okay. And a good way that we might think to start processing this image is to look for maybe edges, or look for some, smaller details in the image that can help us figure out what this is. And so what you can do is you can create a filter. And so here's a filter, and it's 3 pixels by 3 pixels, okay? And we're going to make it try and find edges. So essentially, well, yeah. Let's say we put zeros in all these cells, essentially, and we'll put ones in these cells. And then we'll put this filter right here on the image. And we'll take a weighted average of each cell in the filter with the value of the pixel at that part of the image, okay? And basically what that'll do is it'll output kind of like a score for how edgy is that part of the image, essentially. And because there's no edge here, this will output something close to 0. And if we put, a filter right here, because there's high pixel values on the leg, hopefully it'll output something closer to 1. Not 1, but hopefully closer than here. And after we do that, we're going to basically get an image that shows us where all the up and down edges are. So it might, look something more like this, and probably a little bit here and here. And then we can look at that, and use another filter and say, maybe if there's 4 legs in a row, that means it's an animal or something. Or we could use basically a lot of these filters to progressively figure out what the image is of. And the idea of using filters came long before machine learning. But the difference is now these numbers are not fixed, they are parameters. They're different weights that basically you can tune using gradient descent.
So you showed an example where there's a single filter. That filter passes over the image, and it effectively produces a new image representing the scores of how well every region matches the image, or matches that filter. However, in reality, we don't use one filter at a time. We use a lot of filters at a time. So what we're essentially doing is we're passing over the entire image and just kind of synthesizing a slightly more abstract representation of it, but still sort of in the same areas.
So does the idea of a CNN make some sense, Eric? Okay, cool.
Sorry, can I hold you up?
Yeah. What's it
So
mean?
that describes one single convolutional layer when you have filters passing over these. What we do in reality is we take that, we just add another one, then we add another one, and then we add another one, until it's small enough, and because every time we do this filter operation, it increases in semantic meaningfulness and decreases in the kind of like precision of like pixel-specific things, sort of. Well, not really, it doesn't. But still, we'll pretend it does. But we're essentially distilling it from pixel space down to like, there is a hand here space. And we also use some other layers that do like related operations, but they're not too relevant to this. But in the end, it turns it from an image into an abstract representation of an image, sort of.
Mm-hmm. And then at the end, usually we'll stop at some point the convolutional layers, and then we'll flatten everything. So we'll just take all these numbers and put them in a row in a vector, single vector, and then pass that to dense layers, so fully connected layers. And that's just a regular neural net, and that's usually how it is. So hopefully that all made sense. Do you have any questions?
So like once you have like the vector from the CNN, is that like what you guys were talking about, like the image vector?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What we were talking about is that vector, like, we start with the image, and we just kind of assume that vector now somehow represents that image.
Right.
We don't exactly know like how it represents it. We just kind of assume that all the information that's necessary is going to be in that vector somehow, and we'll just let the machine figure out how to do that for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then going through the RNN is changing that image vector to whatever language that
Yeah,
we're trying to.
But that'll be in the next lecture. RNNs are good for working with the like sequential data in all forms, making it, using it, everything.
Mm-hmm. All right, so good to move on to RNNs.
Should I stop the recording and do a new one, or just keep it?
Sure, why not?